In this video, I'm going to show you how to progress from a blockout stage to a primary detail to secondary detail to tertiary detail. We're going to use a very simple example. I just want you to see the thought process and how you can evolve simple shapes, how you can think about doodling and evolving simple shapes into something a bit more, complete, okay? So we're going to start with a cube. It's going to be a very simple vent idea, right? Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to kind of imagine, or, maybe if you're following a reference, you want to establish the basic proportions of whatever you're doing, right? So in my case, what I want to do something a bit more narrow like this, and definitely not as thick, right? So I'm going to scale it here to maybe this thickness, and I'm going to apply the scale, okay? Now, another thing I want it to be sort of applied to the wall. So let's say that behind here, right, we have a building wall. So let me just rotate it on y-axis, and I'm going to move it somewhere here, right? And we're gonna have this, this wall here going maybe both directions, whatever, right? And I'm gonna make this a little bit larger, okay? So we have this wall here in the back, right? And this would basically lay on the wall, right? So now, what I want it to be kind of taller on the back. So I'm going to add some chamfers here. Now we could do it, in multiple ways. We could just grab these edges and sort of move them up and down. So GZ and, just move it somewhere here. And maybe this one could be a little bit steeper or longer like this. You see, so now what we're doing already, we sort of playing with the offset and breaking the symmetry of this object, right? So it's going to be slightly shorter, this chamfer on the top, and longer on the bottom. In addition to what to this, what we could do, we could cut the bottom, right? So go to box cutter, and I could slice it from the bottom like this, right? So I could get something like this, and maybe make this one a little bit shorter, right? So we're gonna end up with this kind of a situation, which is also interesting. I could apply this with sharpen and bring it down, right? Maybe something like this, right? Another thing I could do, right, is I could run chamfers or bevels on, here. But you see, that's what's gonna do. It's going to kind of start defining deeper my basic form, and I'm not sure if I want that yet. So at the moment, I'm looking at this, and I need to think this is the final kind of outline of what I want. And you can see here that we're losing the sharp edge. So what we can do is we can adjust it with sharpen. So shift click on sharpen, move to the left until all right, was it right? Okay, until the auto smooth snaps. Yes, in the bottom, auto smooth. Yeah, you want to snap it. And this is going to allow you to see the shape a bit better. I'm going to add some bevel, a tiny one, and weight it almost, right? Now I'm working with add-ons, obviously, with Hardups and Box Cutter. And if you want to learn how to work with these add-ons, then grab our course, The Ultimate Guide to Hardups and Box Cutter. But if you are a beginner or intermediate, you should probably go for the Hard Surface Accelerator, which is aimed basically at beginners and intermediate. So it's a great course when you want to learn the basic tools, menus, and the workflow, and how to understand evolving shapes like this one. There's a whole section over there devoted to this. Anyway, the links to both courses are in the video description, so check them out in your own time, and they're fantastic. So now, in addition to this, I'm thinking about making this a little bit wider, okay? So I want to make it a little bit wider, right, you see? And I want to add additional element here on the top. Now, we could do this with a cube, we could do it with a knife. I'm going to apply scale one more time, and we're going to run a cut here, right? So now I'm going to draw a cut here, right? And I'm going to press K for knife with box cutter and space to run through. Now, we could, symmetrize it, because you see that it's not really even. I could do this with mesh machines. I could run symmetry mirror with Alt X with mesh machine, fantastic add-on. And now what I could do, I could kind of determine how low I want this this edge to be here. Now see, what I'm trying to achieve here is this kind of like an offset. So if I, for example, grab this, right, grab this edge and place it in the middle here, this would look extremely boring. Look at these divisions, right? You got more or less square here, square here, square here. That's kind of like a sandwich, right? You got a sandwich, some kind of like meat and cheese in the middle and sandwich. It's called sandwiching in design. It's kind of like a very boring stack of similar length or bevels or chamfers or whatever, or layers basically. Doesn't look really good. So this one is much better because it offsets, it's 2/3 to 1/3, and then you got this kind of a surprise in the bottom, boom, right, almost a square, and a really tiny one on the top. This looks pretty peachy to me. So what I would do here, I would grab these and I would actually make them larger. So here we could just grab this and go with Alt and macro and do that. Now here in the back you see we have a bit of a problem, right? See that? But this is easy to fix. Watch this. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this, right? And I'm going to extrude this, right? And then I'm going to grab this, these two edges, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse them here, right? Whoops, not here, here, right? And this one I'm going to simply align. So grab these two, right? Select this one, Alt A, and align them to the left. So now what we can do, we can use flatten from mesh machine, okay? So we could select this one and this one, sorry, Y and flatten, boom. And it's going to flatten it to this surface. So again, this one, Y and flatten, and click and boom, Bob Jankle, now it's peachy. Now we can remove this nonsense here by going to operations and clean mesh. And there you go. Now we need to fix the bevels because you see the profile is messed up. So go to bevel, press 1, and Bob Jankle, right? And now we got this, okay? There are easier way of doing this, obviously, but I'm trying to, you know, show you some cool tricks in here. Now here in the bottom, what I would do is I would run a bevel or a chamfer, but you know, bevel could be actually interesting like this. You know, this could be interesting. Make sure that when you run a bevel, you're gonna be running, you can see on the top here, 6 segments, right? When you're running even number of segments and uneven number of edges, you can always subdivide this bevel and make it smaller. So I would run 6 in here and it's gonna be peachy. So we got this shape, right? Again, our auto smooth is messed up, so sharpen, shift click, and just don't overdo it, and boom, there you go. All right, peachy. So we got that, right? Now what I would like to do is I would like to kind of echo this sort of a soft bevel by actually beveling the top here. So we could grab these, right? And we could bevel them with the same kind of a bevel. So you see, now what we're going to do is we're going to sort of echo the softness of this bevel with the top. And this one could remain either sharp, or you could also bevel it, you know, like this, right? So you could do that or sharpen it. I think beveled maybe is going to be also cool. You could leave it sharp, it's up to you, okay? But maybe beveled is better, you know, maybe you can do something like this. So now you're sort of having this uniform design language. Now, this is a very basic shape, right? But like I told you in my previous video when I was talking about how to, you know, come up with better ideas and shapes and how to improve your modeling, just watch it if you haven't seen it. But now since we have this basic, you know, sort of the shape established, I can see where I can start adding details and, you know, sort of adding stuff to it, because the model tells me, right? Like for example, we probably need something here in the bottom, maybe in the left and the right corner. So either some kind of attachment device that attaches to the wall, or some sort of like an extended vent. This could also work. So what I could do here is run another cut, right? Maybe a more narrow cut, or maybe even 2 cuts like this, right? So you could run that, and we could just mirror this to the other side and grab these, right? And we could do something with it. So we could, for example, run Alt E and extrude manifold. So we could extrude them inwards like this, which is not going to work perfectly for us, unfortunately. I think I'm just going to do it with, actually what we could do is run an edge here and then grab these and sort of, you know, and bring them in, right? So we could go Alt E and extrude manifold and just move them in like this, right? And this is going to be interesting. It's messing up my bevel for some reason. I don't know why it's doing this. I'm not though crazy about, you know, because it goes on normals, which means it's gonna push these faces on the normal of this face, which is angled. I wonder if actually a boolean wouldn't be a better idea here and mirror this. So let's go back and let's run a boolean. In fact, let me just save it because I don't want it to crash. On the desktop is fine. I just want a power save. There we go. So here what I would do, I would run a boolean, right? I would run a boolean, and so we could actually mirror this to the other side with Alt X, right? So mirror this. And if I run a boolean here, I can actually see it immediately. It's actually too tall, I think. Maybe somewhere like this, something like that, right? And what we could do here is press either T or press X and go with the inset boolean, which is very interesting. See, that kind of a situation. That's actually pretty cool, I think. That's pretty cool. I like that. There's a bit of a beef here with the bevel. Something's happening here with the bevel. Let me see this. Bevel 1 for profile. That is interesting. This could be some glitch with the boolean, so we might actually check this later on. There could be some overlaps from a really tight boolean here. Maybe ever scroll this and adjust the solidification. Yeah, see, the geometry was being pushed under one another, and this is what's causing this shading problem. When you're modeling a lot, you're gonna see this all, instantly, very quickly. You will recognize them. Now, see, these two are squarish, which kind of corresponds with the shape of this structure. But what we could do, we could, add some bevels to them, right? So we could over scroll this, and we could grab this cutter here. So I would need to apply the cutter. So operations multiply, and grab this this cutter here and run some, bevel operation here like this, right? To make it bevel. I think it's gonna look a little bit better. And we're gonna have something in here. These could also be beveled, so let's maybe operations multiply this, and I wouldn't mind beveling these, like this. Okay, I think it's gonna look pretty cool. The bottom could be flat, it's okay. In fact, what we could do, we could run another cut here in the middle like this, and press K for knife, and just simply drop it down. So extrude it, down here like this. And maybe, run a chamfer here, like that. And it's gonna be interesting here in the bottom, right? Kind of like a, support on the bottom. Cool. So that's that. Here, what we could do now, we could start breaking this shape. So watch. We have this beautiful negative space, right? This beautiful sheet of, of plane surface. So what I could do is run a very small cut here, right, somewhere here, maybe some sort of handle, or we could even do it with a decal. Okay, some sort of element here. Maybe we could even bevel this, right? It needs to be in the middle. So B for bevel, and then E for extrusion, and we could run T on it for solidification, something like this. Here you see it's gonna break it in the bottom, and then what we're gonna do, we're gonna run something on the top. So here what we could do, we could run a grill or some such, some here, for example, we could run a cut, right? So K and the cut. And what we could do here is, let me just get rid of these. Oh, and there we go. And grab these, and we could actually extrude them up a little bit, maybe even higher than this. Let me see this. This could go actually really high, something like this maybe. And maybe we could have a bevel here as well. Maybe not a steep bevel like this, maybe tighter bevel. Something like that. That's actually pretty cool, I think. Or another idea would be to run some sort of like a vent here. So we could grab this edge here and Control B that, right? And run a cut here in the middle. So Alt and macro basically. So run it in, right, like this, right? And then run some sort of like a grill here, or some sort of like a vent, whatnot, or even this could even be horizontal or vertical. B and run in, and then V for for the array, and I'm not gonna go all the way through. I'm gonna finish here because I think it's gonna look pretty cool. Now what you could do, you could actually leave it asymmetrical. We could, we could array to the top as well and leave it asymmetrical. Or we could just, mirror it to the other side, right? We could do either or. Might be actually interesting to array this to the top. So Q, array, press A, and array to the top. And you're gonna have two of them here, and I think it's gonna look pretty awesome. See, now we got this asymmetry, which is really interesting, right? So we can do something else in here on this side, right? We could put some, tiny bolts or whatnot. We could do it with decals, you don't need to do this with a mesh, right? Now here definitely we need something as well on top of this, so we could just grab these maybe, and let's just shift curve extract them and maybe scale them. So shift S and origin to geo and scale them. So we're gonna have this kind of a situation and sharpen them. There we go. And maybe we could run some cut on this here on top, right? So we could run a cut here on this one as well, which is gonna sort of gonna be corresponding with this. You see what I mean? It's gonna like ongoing theme here. So just bevel and E and run through, and maybe T, right? And scale it, weighted normals, and mirror to the other side. Boom. Yeah, you see the pattern now? Boom, right? In addition, what we could do, we could run a chamfer here. So click, alt click with the machine tools, with mesh machine, sorry, and loop only. And, we could chamfer this to add a planar shift, which is really cool. Planar shifts are amazing. Now this one is a little bit too close, so we can move this and cut it a bit up, so GZ, and move it up, right? So it doesn't interfere, and it's gonna be peachy. Now planar shifts are really awesome, and they're going to add highlights on your model. It's kind of like a free detail basically. It's really cool. Now here on the side, if you wanted to add some additional elements, what we could do, we could actually borrow this edge, right? So shift D that, P and selection, and we could grab this, right? And let's E, and let's align it here and combine it, select everything, face it, and we're going to insert it a little bit, Control I to invert it and delete these faces, right? And grab this edge here, actually grab this whole thing and move it in here and solidify it and move it in, right? So GY, right? Move it in here. Let me see this. How this looks. This is a bit too deep, but you can actually cut this here. Let me see that. What if I did something like this at 45 degrees? That's actually pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. We could even mirror this to the other side, or you could just do it one-sided, so kind of offset this symmetry on the other side, but maybe it's gonna be too much. Maybe this is gonna be cool. That's actually pretty dope, I'm not gonna lie. And here on the edges, we could kind of echo, right? We could echo this chamfer, right? So let's just apply this, so smart apply, and I'm going to run, let's run a bevel here, and then let's run a chamfer all the way here, right? So we're gonna kind of mimic this, but we can make it larger. Now this chamfer is sort of, let me see this. Yeah, we got a problem in here, so let me just grab this to local view. Yeah, this is too thin, you see, too thin to run the chamfer. So let's just move it deeper, right? And see if it's gonna make any sense here to run a chamfer like that. This is not gonna, this is too thin. So let's grab this whole face and align it here, boom, and then 3 to clean it, and then we're gonna be able to do it, right? Then you can run this chamfer here, so let me see that, and run a larger chamfer here, and maybe smaller bevel. How are we looking? I think this looks pretty cool. I wonder if this one isn't actually better on the left hand side, you see? Maybe this is too aggressive. Maybe this is too aggressive. Huh, maybe this is too aggressive. Let's nuke this. Sometimes you gotta try things, yeah. But we definitely need the bevel here. Maybe a smaller bevel, right? Something like this. And we could keep it kind of, you know, slightly angled here. Maybe not as angled. Maybe we could just add a tiny bevel, you know, something like that. You know what I mean? And there you go. And we could maybe even add some cuts to it, like massive ones, right? So, and run maybe some pipes inside of it. Do you know what I mean? Like here, we could run a cut like this. Move it slightly to the edge and slice through. Let me see that. Right, and then we could just run a, you know, a pipe inside, you know what I mean? So let's run a plane here and just scale it down. Let me see this somewhere here like this, slightly taller. Apply scale, nuke these two because we don't need them, right? And then grab these two verts. I'll show you a cool trick. Now, if you're gonna grab this element here, I'll show you a cool trick. Instead of going E, which is gonna extrude the whole edge, right? What you wanna do is Alt D, which is gonna extrude only the edge from the verts, you see? So you're creating this kind of like a pipe-like structure. And what we could do, we could mimic the shape of this whole structure here. So what we could do is move this up, right? Like this. And then, you know, bevel these, right? So maybe that many. And then we're going to run the curve extract. So mesh tools and curve extract, and then S, Control 2, and bring it in, right? So, you know, bring it in here. And then we can just extend it, right? So let me just extend it here. Or even just move it like, actually extending is fine. So somewhere here, right? So it goes in, you know what I mean? Maybe slightly smaller. So Shift S to geometry and then scale it a little bit. Let me see this. Something like that. You can actually make it skinnier and then, you know, mirror this across here. Boom, right? And you got this kind of a situation. We could bring it in deeper. So it sort of sticks out, but not too much. And there you go. And you see the balance of this thing? It's sort of like creating like a frame that's going to draw you in. And then what you do, right, at the end is, I'm not crazy about this bit on the bottom here, to be honest. What I could do is bring it a bit lower, right? And maybe instead of these chamfers here, let me just nuke this chamfer here. So Y and on chamfer with mesh machine, and maybe bevel here would be better. I just don't know. I think so. I'm not crazy about this in the bottom here. Maybe this should be larger. Or maybe we should just get rid of it completely, you know. Let me see this. I kind of like a bit of something over there, to be honest. Maybe scale this on Y. Maybe that's the play. And either bevel this or chamfer this. That's actually pretty cool. All right, cool. So, you know, that's that. Now here we got the traditional bevel pulls on this, right? Because the booleans are pulling in the ugly way. So what we could do is simply run a cut here like this with a box cutter. So just, you know, run a cut here like this and press K for knife and slice it. It's gonna fix the problem. So we got that. Cool. And the rest honestly can be done with decals because we can add tertiary detail right now, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna scale this wall here a little bit, right? And let's go to render view and let's apply some HDRI and some floor so we can see something here, right? And just let's make the floor white for now. Plastic, shiny, boom. The wall could be, you know, industrial plastic or whatever. Maybe that's a bit too dark. Actually, you know, shiny plastic, screw it. Let's make a shiny wall. And this one could be, you know, could be metal. So what we could do is, you know, grab these two, put them in collection number 2 or 3, whatever. Right, and let's turn them off for a second. And whoa, this one was selected as well. So hang on a second. This one hide it, this one hide it, select everything, M collection number, let's go number 1, fine. And then we can bring this wall back. Wait a minute, something's missing here. Where the hell is my wall? Ah, here, okay. So select collection 1, collection 3. This has to go to collection 3. What the hell is this? I don't even know. Cutters, remove them. This one can, you know, can be removed as well. Perfect. Okay. So select everything and we can run, you know, a mat on it, which we could run metal, right? On all of it. So run the metal and then select everything, and we're going to apply the same mat here. We obviously need to change the angle of the lighting. There we go. Bring back the walls. There we go. And now you can start breaking up this shape with mats, because the easiest way to do this, right, is to apply one mat to everything and then start breaking the shape with mats, because it's much easier to understand what you need to change. Like, for example, I would change these to something either darker or brighter. This could be, let's say, this coated titanium, right? We could do the same thing with the pipes, coated titanium, right? And maybe with this handle. So what we could do is operations multiply, grab this one, right? Grab this P, loose selection, and grab that, and also apply titanium, boom. And see, now you got this kind of like a triangle, you know, like a cone, right? Framing it from the sides, from the bottom, and it looks really cool. And now this shape will tell you where you want to place additional details. Like, for example, what we could do, right? We could put a sticker somewhere here on the bottom left, but not in the middle, because it's going to be in between these two, creating sandwiching. What you want to do is you want to put it either higher or lower. I would put it somewhere here to offset and sort of re-emphasize the asymmetry of this model, right? So what I would do is I would go here with decals, and we can just put, you know, I don't know, G5 valve, whatever, right? And put it somewhere here, and we just could slap it literally somewhere here, right? Now you could completely offset it off of this line as well. I think it's gonna be fine. Somewhere here. Now let's see how this is gonna look. It's not terrible. We could align it here, you know, with this edge a little bit better. So do something like this and project it and see how we're gonna look. I think we're looking pretty good. You could put it in the middle here as well, but whatever you do, you want to offset it. This is not terrible. Now, if we're gonna do that, what we could also do, we could add some additional elements here, right? So we could go to my favorite decal, which is called legendary decal, because this decal fits everything or everywhere. Scale it down, rotate it, right? So adjust it a little bit, and I'm going to array this down here. And you see what I'm doing right now is I'm going to maybe like a 1/3 above the bottom, 2/3 top, right? So I'm not going to the very bottom. I'm not creating a symmetrical design. I'm creating an offset again. So let's mirror this to the other side. Let's project it, right? Project, there we go. And then we're going to see like what it does. It sort of breaks the surface with something really tiny and brings the attention up to the top of the model, right? So this G5 looks less heavy. Yeah, it's just small tricks, but they're so important. Here in the bottom too, what we could do, I mean, if you're adventurous, what you could do, put a light here in the middle, or maybe some sort of a vent. Maybe we could put a vent like this, you know, or 2 vents, right? Maybe not in the middle, but we could actually put them on this. This could be interesting, right? Maybe 2 vents here, or we could put 2 vents on top, you know, this could also be interesting. Right now, The only thing you can be careful, right, with is that if I'm going to add this vent, for example, here, right, I want to show you this. This is very important. Watch this. If I'm going to add this vent here, right, so I think it's already applied. It's not that bad actually because of the angle of the light, right? But it does create quite a strong visual pull. Why? Because it's very contrasty, right? It's black on kind of like a grayish element. And there are not that many black elements. Now, fortunately, because we have these elements in the bottom which are darker and these pipes, it helps to frame this whole structure, and we got this dark element in the middle, so these two work, okay? Now, if you wanted to bring the attention all the way to the bottom, what you could do is put, for example, some tiny light here in the bottom, right? So what we could do is go here and, you know, add some sort of like a control light, okay? So we could add, let me see. Well, we could add these, but this symmetrical. Actually, this could work. Let me see this. Just make them smaller, right? If you're adding lights, right? If you're adding lights, this pro tip, you really want to make them small, okay? Because lights will pull a lot of attention. Watch this, right? Watch this. I zoom out really far, you can still see them, especially when I'm gonna, you know, run a darker wall, right? Do you see what I mean? See how visible these lights are? Now imagine if they were saturated. Saturated colors are gonna pull like crazy. So what you want to do is you want to offset this at the top to pull your attention back to the top, right? And that's, you see, kind of playing with visual anchors. So what I could do is create a whole panel here on the top, right, with lights, right? So what we could do is, so where was this thing? And by the way, if you want to grab all these decals, which are insane, and it will take you ages to create them. They really take a lot of time to make. We have 800 plus decals and 20 trim sheets. Good luck, you know, creating them on your own, and they're really amazing quality. I'm not joking. And they were like handcrafted, decal by decal, you know, bit by bit. I would not want to do it again, not gonna lie. We could just grab this one, and now we could align it, you know, like this, right, and put it here on the side. This would work, right? This would work. We could also put it, you know, horizontally to sort of echo the lights here, but I think breaking these lights in the bottom could be interesting. So I'll make it smaller, much smaller, right? And maybe place it somewhere here and project it and see how we're looking, right? We're not looking too bad. I think we're looking good. Look at this. We got this offset through the light, G5 to the bottom, and then we got this framing through these dark elements. Like I told you in the previous video, the details will tell you when they want to be placed, when the blockout is balanced. Now, what I don't like, the only thing I don't like is these corners here. And I think I might change them to a chamfer, you know what I mean? So what I would do here is I would grab these corners and literally chamfer them, right, like this, and I think this is gonna be much better, right? There we go, that's much better. In fact, you could bring them closer here, so Control B and kind of slightly offset them from the bottom, so there's kind of like a drop. There we go, that's nice, and it sort of echoes this drop here, which is pretty cool. It's a bit not crazy about this kind of like a step here, because 1, 2, 3, and they're kind of the same size. What we could do technically, right, we could grab this this edge here and we could drop it down. So watch, I could just do something like this here, right? I will need to draw a line here, so hang on a second. In order to run a bevel here, what we would need to do is draw a line here in between these, right? So now I'm gonna be able to drop it down, I think. And also we need a line on the back here, so in fact not this one, we need a line going down here like that. So press A and run an edge all the way down here like this. Doesn't have to be to the bottom. So now what we can do, we can actually grab this and chamfer it, okay? And I'm going to adjust these verts to these on the front, right? So just align them like that, right? Because if you do it the other way around, you're gonna change the this bevel here. And this is gonna have to be cleaned, so operations and clean mesh, which is gonna clean all the nonsense in the back, all the lines you don't need, everything, right? This one is a bit ghetto, but you know, no one is looking, so we're fine. So yeah, and I think this is gonna be a bit better. So mirror to the other side, let's go. And now you see, we're gonna get this kind of a longer drop, right? And then smaller steps. So it's, I think it looks really better. Kind of like a, you know, a bit more sci-fi and more balanced, you know what I mean? So yeah, there you go. That's how you progress from a block out, how you should be, you know, thinking about progressing with shapes and how evolve shapes, how to first establish the basic proportions, then how to break the shape with primary detail, and then how to progress detailing deeper in a way that's gonna be, you know, balanced and proportional, right? So anyway, thanks for watching, and like I said, if you want to learn how to model in Blender, you want to learn all the basics, all the tools, and the whole workflow, including the principles of design, which I think are essential, especially in the era of AI. You need to know them, otherwise, you know, you're not gonna be good at modeling ever, because AI will not tell you what's good, what's bad. It's just going to spit some nonsense, and you need to know. And if you don't know, then you're gonna be basically progressing deeper into the area of not knowing. You know, you're just gonna suck more and more, and you will have no idea why. And the why is because simply you have no basics. So, you know, learn the basics. So again, the course is called the Hard Surface Accelerator. The link is in the video description and also in the pinned comment under the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.